Hello ladies and gents, in this video I'm going to demonstrate some land navigation techniques that I've noticed new players tend to struggle with, specifically the many uses of the map tool from Ace mod. However, even if you are a veteran of the Arma series, you may learn something new, so please stick around. Let's start by familiarizing ourselves with the basic tools needed for navigation without GPS aid. Here we have the compass, the map tools, and optionally the notepad. Starting with the compass, you can press and hold K to reveal the compass. You'll notice the sighting wire on the top cover, the red index line below that, and the compass dial that rotates in the base. The dial consists of the magnetic arrow, which always points north, and the inner and outer ring of numbers. The outer ring denotes milliradians, and the inner ring denotes degrees. Most typically you'll be using degrees. Next, we have the map. To open the map, you'll press M. Right off the bat, you'll see the terrain, our cursor in red, and our compass. Additionally, you'll see grid lines that run laterally and longitudinally, contour lines, which show changes in elevation, and in the bottom right, you'll see the scale. It changes to adapt to your level of zoom. Finally, the toggle texture button sits in the top right. It switches between the satellite view and a more traditional paper map view. Last but not least, we have our map tool. It can be accessed by doing a self-interaction, defaultly the key of Control in Windows, selecting Map Tools, and selecting Show. The tool will appear in the bottom left of the map. It consists of an inner and outer ring in milliradians and degrees, a ruler on the side for measuring distance, and a coordinate scale at the top. You can manually rotate the arrow by holding Alt and dragging. Now that we understand our tools, let's start with the basis of Land Nav, finding out where we are. First step, let's gain some elevation to see more of the area around us. From this ridge I can see a few helpful things, like the ocean to the west, a runway, and even a radio and a radar tower. Examining the map, I can use terrain association to roughly estimate my location. I know that I am in view of the west coast, and I am somewhere to the east-southeast of the airfield, so I can assume that I am somewhere in this region. Essentially, terrain association is the process of elimination. However, there is a more accurate method, triangulation. Triangulation entails using compass bearings, aka azimuths, and landmarks to pinpoint your location. A caveat of using triangulation is that you must locate your landmarks on the map in order to use them accurately. I'll be using two landmarks, namely the radio tower to my north and the airfield to my northwest. I'll align on my first landmark using the sighting wire of my compass to shoot an azimuth, and I can see that it reads bearing 035 degrees, roughly. To plot this azimuth, I'll first need to find my landmark on the map. Looking north, I see three radio tower icons. This one is situated on a small ridgeline above a town, this one is situated on a hill above the airbase, and this one is situated on a ridgeline near a road, and with nothing else in particular near it. Judging by appearances, I would say that the southern icon is my landmark, so I'll mark it as such. To align my map tool, I'll do another self-interaction. Go to Map Tools, Align Map Tool to Compass, and see that my map tool has automatically rotated to match my azimuth of 035 degrees. Finally, I will draw my line. I'll take my map tool's parallel edge and carefully line it up on my mark, and just drawing as you normally would, use primary click, left control. You'll see that a thick, semi-transparent line has appeared on that bearing of 035 degrees. Now that my first line is plotted, I know that I am somewhere along this line. I will repeat this process again for my second landmark. Same deal, I'll identify my second landmark on the map. I'll use the southern tip of the runway peninsula. Be careful when using a large feature like a town, a mountain, or a runway. You'll need to focus on a point target like a single building, a peak, or some other small feature you can zero in on and identify. Next, same as before, I'll align the sighting wire of my compass on that tip, open map, align map tool to compass, drag my map tool to that feature, draw my line, and voila. Where these two lines intersect, that is my current location. So that is triangulation in a nutshell. I know that I am at grid 030042. Reading on the top of the map first, and then up the sides. I can double check my location by once again using terrain association. I can see that my mark is sitting on a ridgeline running east-west. It's also situated between two roads, parallel, one on my north, one on my south. And finally, I can see that my mark is just to the west of a small dip in the ridgeline, often referred to as a saddle. Physically looking around, I can see that that assessment is true, seeing as there's the northern road, there's the southern road, and here's the little dip just to my east. Now let's switch gears and find a location on the map using grid coordinates that have been supplied to me. I'll bring up my notepad. Here I have some intel on a location of a hidden cache. As you can see, it's an 8-digit grid. I'll demonstrate how to find an 8-digit grid using the map tool. An 8-digit grid is a level of precision higher than a 6-digit grid. It denotes an area of 10 meters squared, whereas a 6-digit grid designates an area of 100 meters squared, shown here. As your zoom level changes on the map, you may notice the grid lines changing. This goes from a 2-digit grid format all the way zoomed out to a 4-digit grid format, finally to a 6-digit grid format. However, 6-digit grids are as high as the map's grid lines will display, thus making the map tool necessary for finding 8-digit grids. As for this specific 8-digit grid, I'll begin by finding what 6-digit grid it falls within. To do this, I'll just read the first 3 numbers on each half to find it as I would normally. So that would be 0, 2, 3, 0, 2, 8. Here we are. So now that I know that this 8-digit grid is somewhere within here. Next, I'll use the map tool's coordinate scale to finish this grid. Make sure you have the small map tool and your map tool is aligned to north. What you'll do is start by aligning this 0, 0 vertex at the bottom left corner of the grid. And just like reading any other coordinate, remember, across then up. Some people might say eastings then northings. So, with the first number, 7, I'll move across 7 hash marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I'll go up. So with the second number being 1, I'll move up 1 hash mark. There you go. Now all to do is just mark where the 0, 0 vertex lies. I'll mark this in gold. 0, 2, 3, 7, 0, 2, 8, 1. And there you go. I've marked the 8-digit grid here. Now all we have to do is go and travel to it. Now that we know where we are and where we need to go, it's time to plan and execute movement. I could just shoot an azimuth between my location and the target location, however, that would be a very long way to walk with no sort of help along the journey. Instead, I'll use waypoints to act as progress points along the way. I see a few places that'll work well as waypoints, namely this house here, this peak, and this small depression on this hillside. I'll use my map tool to determine what bearing I need to follow in order to traverse from point to point. So, I will take the little dot in the center of the dial, put on my location. I will rotate until the red arrow is pointing on my first waypoint. Oh, shoot. I need to actually grab the large map tool. Here's my plan plotted out. I'll move from my start point on a bearing of 204 down to the house. I'll move from the buildings up the slope to this high point on the ridgeline. From that peak, I'll move on a bearing of 181 degrees down to this depression in the forested area. And finally, I'll head west generally out of waypoint 3 down this draw until I meet the valley floor. As you may be able to see, there's not a lot of reference points within this general area, so I'll be limited to terrain association to find my final endpoint. Luckily, I'll be able to use this draw that I travel down to point me in the direction of the endpoint, which is situated just on the southern slope of the valley. Well, that's the plan as it stands. Let's see if we can make it there. Alright, from the start point, it's bearing 204, and this should point me in the right direction of those buildings. And finally, here we are, down at the valley. So, like I said earlier, this draw that I just traveled down should put me in the point. There it is. In conclusion, ladies and gents, Land Nav boils down to figuring out where you are, figuring out where you need to go, and figuring out how to get there. Mastery of the map tool and skills such as terrain association certainly help as well. I hope you learned something new today. Thank you for watching.